As most of you are aware, there's a lot of variation in the temperature rating for quilts. Some manufacturers test to a standard, and some have their own test methods. Dimensions are the same. This was brought home to me by a recent purchase of a Bandit quilt with a width dimension of 140 centimeters. So what does this width measurement mean? Well, it seems very little and not what I thought. And this is because there is no agreed standard as to where this measurement should actually be made and the conditions of measurement. And this is common to almost all quilt manufacturers. Let's have a look at a quilt. In most cases, as with the Bandit I purchased, they are of a tapering design, wide at the top and thinning out towards the bottom of the footbox area, a typical trapezoid design. The length and girth, or width, are determined by the loft, that's the amount of padding, and the number of quilting cells used in the design. These distort the actual material length or width as the quilting creates cylinders of fabric, and the lofting will determine how thick these cylinders are. The measured free length and width of the finished quilt must be less than the material length used to construct the quilt. Whether length or width decreases depends on whether quilting is vertical or horizontal. For simplicity, I'll concentrate on vertical quilting and width measurement, as this measurement determines how far the quilt wraps around you. Most, but not all manufacturers, have a recommended method to determine the length and girth size you should purchase. I decided to look at the recommendations of a representative selection from the Best Packing Quilts of 2021, published by Ultimate Gear Lists. Enigma determines the girth from the widest part of your body and suggests adding 4 to 5 inches for active sleepers. You'll note that this measurement assumes that the quilt will wrap around you. This is common on most of the selections we will see. In other words, it's not sized like a blanket that's laid over you, but more like a sleeping bag. Z-Pack uses the same idea as Enigma and suggests that you upgrade to the next width if you're a side sleeper or toss and turn lots. Hammock and Thermarest provided quilt sizes on their web pages without any supporting information that I can find. The Nunatak UL 3 Seasoned sizing says that the width measurement should be at the shoulders without stretching the fabric. Katabatic states our shoulder width measurement reflects the width of the quilt when it is spread out flat. And UGQ, who I bought from, says that the measurement is determined while lying on your side, measuring from the floor up and over your shoulder and back to the floor, then adding 6 to 8 inches to determine the appropriate girth. In other words, the girth selection may not be complete around you, as with the other designs. Okay, I used the Bandit suggestions when I ordered the 140 centimeter quilt. It arrived, and I believed it was too small in the girth measurement. I surmised that the widest part should be around the location of the top fastener, some 30 centimeters below the top, at about my shoulder level. This measured 126 centimeters with a quilt in a relaxed state. I advise UGQ of this, and I will leave you to read their reply. What? The measurement could vary by up to 15%? As there is no definition for snug, I decided to measure the quilt in a fully stretched and relaxed state. In other words, flattening the loft as far as I could during stretching. Here are the measurements in the relaxed and stretched state of the quilt at different distances down the length. You'll note that at the shoulder height I determined, the fully stretched dimension was only 136 centimeters, when I thought it should be 140 centimeters in a relaxed state. Now call me picky, but I didn't buy a 140 centimeter quilt to wear it like a straitjacket when buttoned up. UGQ suggested I return the quilt for a warranty claim. I decided not to do this because no doubt their measurement methodology would be the same as during manufacture, and the result would be, I thought, the same. They would just confirm their own measurements. I have no problem with the methods suggested by suppliers for the determination of the girth, but there is no relationship shown by any of the manufacturers that relates this measurement to a height position on a quilt. If we look at the Enigma and Z-Pack drawings, it seems to indicate a standing person with arms askew, not an at-sleep position where the arms are close to the body. It's easy to determine the width of a rectangular quilt, but where is the width measurement of a trapezoid-shaped quilt? Certainly it can't be the top, as this would be around the neck or head. The shoulders are the likely position for the greatest width, but then again not if you're a pregnant woman. Secondly, in what conditions should the measurement be made? Snug fit means nothing. The only realistic condition for measurement is when the quilt is laid flat and smoothed out, the width and the length being determined by the loft and the quilting in a natural state, as with any bed quilt. The best definition of measurement by any manufacturer I saw was from Minetac, followed by Karabatic. In other words, they smooth the quilt out, don't stretch it, and measure the inside, and the width cannot be less than the dimension chosen. This is a clear definition of the conditions for their measurement that brings joy to my engineering heart. Anyone can replicate this. However, they still do not state where the actual width measurement is on the quilt, at the top or the middle or the bottom. Perhaps their quilts are rectangular, so it didn't occur to them. Nanotech also suggests that the best fit for length should be when the quilt top is at your forehead. I like this definition, as it helps determine a standard for measurement, as you'll see later. I believe the Nanotech measurement method is the best, as it can be easily replicated and the measurements confirmed by the purchaser. But the distance from the top to the position of the girth measurement should either be set by the purchaser or be a fixed standard, which would be a better option. 30 centimeters from the top seam, which would be a little below the shoulders with the quilt at your forehead, seems like a nice clean choice for a standard. So purchasers, you have been warned. There are no set standards for measurement on quilts. Zero in on your preferred manufacturer and ask them the condition and location of the measurement on the quilts before you purchase. Okay, manufacturers, how about a little collective effort to determine a standard method of measurement? You all have standard rulers, so we're only talking about the position and state of the quilt at measurement. Specialist lightweight quilts are expensive, and I believe you owe it to purchasers to ensure they know what they're getting and can check the measurements. I certainly made the mistake of not fully understanding what I was buying. Just for the record, I'm modifying my quilt to fit around me when it's in a relaxed state.